بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع هداه. By the name of Allah Almighty Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Um, so we actually got into um, the point we start to need to go in depth to understand why we are talking about those subjects to make sure that we understand the in-depth of it, not just mimicking what's being said. So, in the last lesson, we talked about the necessity of existence of creator. And today we will solidify everything by taking things from the beginning to look at reality itself. And from there, we can go and deduct and judge this reality to see the characteristics of it. And from there, we can understand and know, well, is an existence of a creator is really necessary, or is it just something we're saying to prove a point because of our belief or our um, things we have been raised to see and believe in? Now, first of all, we need to understand this, which is the truth is the vehicle or the mean for reality and for correct understanding and for knowledge. To the point that in Arabic, uh, the word ilm involves, it means knowledge and knowing. And it in English, it doesn't, it means science maybe, but science means the things that you can see and measure and work with. But in Arabic, the word ilm, it's to also deal with the things that are beyond what our senses deals with. It's maybe the things that our mind can deal with, or other things in us that can deal with it. That's why in Islam we have Alamul Mulk, the seen world, the world that you can see and touch and sense and smell and make experiments with. And then we have Alamul Malakut, the world of the unseen, the things that you cannot see, the things that you cannot detect with your five senses, but it is there. Um, or the effect of it is it's here. Things that are beyond our um, five senses to recognize. And so when we start to deal with wanting to know is the existence of God is something coherent and solid concept, or not just concept, it's a solid concept to the mind, but because it's actually a realistic and solid concept in the outside, it's something that exists. We need to first of all move on from what we have around us. So, and what we have around us is the universe, is everything we have. It's ourselves, the things around us, people around us, the universe we can see. And as we can see in those things in the universe, which includes everything, including us, is that it is there. It's not a delusion. And we know it's not a delusion because everybody can see the same thing. As I said before, if we go to an orange tree, you can see that this is an orange tree. Nobody's going to say it's an apple tree. And if somebody's going to say it's an apple tree and it's an orange tree, People will laugh at that person because, hey, objectively means the truth and being honest. This is an orange tree. So it is not things we are creating in our mind. This is something objective we are perceiving from the outside world. Our mind is just judging it, is just saying this is orange because conventionally we call this orange, but this is orange and it's round. And, if we scratch the surface or if we open it up, we can smell the smell and we can taste the taste. And this is orange. This is what an orange tree looks like, and so on and so forth. And everybody can do the same thing, and objectively, it is the same thing. So when we start, always, we start with what we have, with what exists. It's literally like math. You always start with what you know to discover what you don't know. And so when we look at the universe, we can see the universe exists. And let's keep that in mind. Everything exists. You can hear me right now because you exist. I talk right now because I exist. We think, we interact with things. And so, perfect, like everything exists and so on and so forth. And now the questions will come, okay, why do I exist or how do I exist? Why I existed, how the universe started, where did we come from? That's the first question. And the second question is, what are we doing here? Is there a purpose? And then the third question is, where are we going? What's our end? Like, what do we have? Like, do we go just die and go to nothing, or do we actually go? Is there something beyond this? Um, and so the mind starts thinking, and when the mind starts thinking, when we have no answers, it's a pain for the mind. It's the pain for the thinking beings that what's going to happen to me? What's going on? It's this um, necessary curiosity for a person that thinks to know the truth, not just to convince themselves that, okay, well, there is a creator. Okay, perfect. Now I'm comfortable, and let's move on in life. No, I want to know if you're claiming there is a creator, what's the evidence? And literally, this is what we're talking about here, evidence. Something exists outside, but you have no evidence that it exists. How would you get to the certainty that, yes, now I'm certain my mind got the proofs that it is there. I'm comfortable now. Not because I'm tricking myself, but because everything is is proving to me that this is certainly with evidence 100% um there. It is in this characteristic. It's one, two, three, four, has one, two, three, four qualities, and those qualities means this to the mind. So that's why I said the truth is the vehicle or the mean for our mind to understand. Because if you convey information to your mind in an unhonest way, the things you're getting, the characteristics of that thing you're trying to study or to judge will not be correct. So your judgment will be incorrect. So it has to be honest. It has to be objective. So the universe outside and us and everything, which I mean whatever exists, when we look at it, it does exist. And then you look at the characteristics of this existence, and you immediately can notice everything. You will call it contingent. And contingent means it needs something to exist. This is what contingent means there has to be a condition for its existence. Literally, like we have a chair. Okay, but the chair is contingent to the existence of the ground to be there, stable, and you can sit on it. If there is no ground, there is no floor, The chair will fall indefinitely, forever, and nothing will support it. So the chair is contingent to the floor for its existence. Same thing for us. We are contingent for our parents. If they do not exist, we do not exist. If they don't give us birth, like if they don't get married and have a relationship and then we come along from it, we do not exist. And the same thing for them. And so you start seeing this pattern in the universe. The universe is contingent. It's not eternal. It's always changing. It's always um, in need. Okay, and let's, for example, follow the pattern um, for us being here. So I need my parents to exist. So I'm contingent to my parents, and then my parents needs their parents, and their parents need their parents, and their parents need their parents, and their parents need their parents, and so on and so forth. And we could keep on going, but then you keep on going, you cannot keep on going forever because a contingent thing in its essence needs something before it to exist. So it has to has a start, it has to has a beginning. So when you say, well, my parent had their parents and their parents had their parents and the parents had their parents and we keep on going like that, well, then where is the start? Because we're saying that we are contingent and this chain of contingent things has to have something in the beginning to give them what they're contingent for, what they need to exist. But if you're saying it goes on forever and ever and ever, well, now it's infinite regression, what's called. And this infinite regression is denied by the mind because it's literally saying this. In this example, I love it. It's you have no money, and then you go to a person and you say, hey, could I please borrow some money? And they'll say, yes. Hold on a second, I don't have any. Let me borrow some money from this person. And they go to the person before them. Hey, I need some money. Can I get some money? And the other person will say, yes, but I have no money. I would need to borrow it from the other person. And they go on in chain forever. Would you ever get any penny? Would you get any money? No, because nobody in this chain provided the first initial um, grant for this money to happen and exist in the chain, and therefore you will never ever receive money. Well, the same thing for the existence for creatures. The creation is contingent. And this is contingent to that, and that contingent to the one before it, and the one before contingent to so on and so forth, and everything. But then who provided them with the money they asked for? Well, no one is just infinitely poor. Well, infinitely poor doesn't give you any money, doesn't give you anything. That's why the mind refusing it, because it's literally the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. So the mind then says, well, then it has to has a beginning. That's why the mind very, very firmly refuses infinite regression because it doesn't solve the problem at all. It doesn't make sense for the mind, and the mind is very rigorous. The mind has the instinct to know the truth of things. So infinite regression for us is refused, is rejected. So then what could it be? It has to have a start. It has to have a beginning. That's why when we go back and then we go back to the moment, what they call it right now, the Big Bang, and then scientists and mathematicians say, well, we can trace mathematically until the moment of Big Bang. But then before that, it's an uncaused, unmathematical cause that caused the Big Bang. What is that? Well, it's unmathematical cause. So they're talking about it from their perspective, but as believers, we believe that God is nothing alike. So literally what they mean, the mathematicians, is that it is God, but they don't call it God, they call it the uncaused, unmathematical cause, because God is not under the mathematical rulings. He created those rules. Okay. So we're talking about infinite regression, and that is rejected because literally it's an infinite chain of nothing. But right now, we are something. We exist. Atoms exist, energy exists, we exist. I'm talking, you're listening. So things exist. The floor I'm sitting on or standing on is there. The trees, the dirt, the sky, the clouds, and everything, the air. So, as we can see with our eyes and detect with our senses and understand with our minds, the universe exists. But this is totally the opposite of what it would be there if it was an infinite regression of poor things asking to be given something and infinitely being said, hold on. Then literally you will get nothing because infinitely being waiting will give you nothing. So there has to have a start to start with. Okay, that start that actually gives everything, that actually gives us all of those things we have in the universe, it has to be non-contingent because if it's contingent, if it needs something, again, we are entering the infinite chain, the infinite regression. So, for the mind to validate that things exist, there has to be a beginning with no need for anything. And we're literally talking here logically and coherently. We're not talking religiously at all. So, this beginning first cause necessarily not contingent. So, it's necessarily self sufficient. This is what the mind judges. And be careful with a trick. Sometimes the mind plays with you. It says, well, then, how would I trust this information? Well, you're producing this information. If you cannot trust this information, how can I trust you with even your doubt? Because even this doubt is being produced by you, and I'm answering this doubt with rigorous, coherent answer. And people who knows how the mind works, in the mind we have a couple of systems. We have the prefrontal cortex, the area in the front of the brain, and this is our logical area, the logical section. And then we have another area in the mind or in the brain, which is the amygdala. and it's part of a system called the sympathetic system. So the sympathetic system is a system of fight and flight. But then the amygdala, which is part of that system, it depends on the how the person was raised and how the person not even raised, but then how to choose to face life. This amygdala starts activates frequently. And the job of this amygdala is to make alerts. But if we are suspicion and if we keep pushing overthinking and rumination, the amygdala will activate for nothing. It will literally be a redundant activation that will make you doubt anything and everything. Therefore, we always need to stop and give everything to its specialty. The amygdala gives the warning, and then we validate the warning if it's true or not by our prefrontal cortex. If we detect and rule that, well, this is the truth, then we just stop the amygdala. Stop doubting the truth because this is just doubt, just fear. You're living in fear for something that I am validating that is exist. So let's stop this redundant nonsense of the fear cycle. So that's why some people sometimes get into the fear of what if this is not? Or what if we're elephants and we call ourselves humans? This circle of doubting and being delusional never ends if you keep on going with it. And it's called CAS in metacognitive therapy. CAS means cognitive attentional syndrome, which is to just take an idea and just keep ruminating on it and keep going, keep just analyzing, and this never ends. You need to do a scientifical research to know the truth and to know the reality of something, not just ruminate indefinitely and just be lost. And scientifically, and logically, coherently, and rigorously, the mind says, well, infinite regression is rejected. That's it. Now we know it's rejected because, as I said, a chain of people asking some money from each other infinitely the first person will never get anything. But we can see right now the universe exists. We exist right now. So because we exist, then the mind rules that there has to be a first cause, and this first cause has to be not be caused. It has to be self-sufficient, exist without the need of being given anything. Okay? Um, the same thing for if a person says, okay, then what if the universe just existed because it made itself exist, brought itself to existence? Well, then we get to another regression, but it's called a circular regression, infinite regression. The first one was the linear infinite regression. It's a linear chain. Now, the second one, it's called the circular infinite regression, which is, it's even more simpler. Imagine this: three or four people in the room sitting around a table. And so the first person says to the second person on the right, hey, I need some money. Could you please give me some money? I want to borrow some money. And the person on the right says, yeah, of course. I have none now, but hold on a second. And that second person looks at the third person on the right like the next person, which is the third person now in this order of the story, and then says, well, I need some money. Could you please um lend me some money? And the person will say, of course, I will give you some money, but I have none. Hold on a second. And then this third person looks at the right to the fourth person and say, hey, could you please lend me some money? I need money. And the fourth person says, yeah, of course. Hold on a second. I have none right now. Let me get some for you. And then this fourth person looks at the first person to the right, because it's a circle, and say, hey, could you please give me some money? And the first person says, yeah, of course. I have none right now, but hold on, let me get some for you. And the first person goes to the second person looking at them on the right, and the circle keeps on going. Would you think anybody will get any money? Nope, never. This is literally what the circular infinite regression is. You're asking yourself to give yourself some money. That's literally what when some atheist says, well, the universe made themselves exist, made itself exist. It's contradiction because you're saying, I do not exist, but I give myself existence. Okay, who gives? Only what things exist gives. So you're saying, I do not exist, but I do exist. It's a very direct and obvious contradiction. So nope, the mind rules that out. The mind again rolls linear infinite regression out. Okay, what do we have left? Well, I think the mind says, and the mathematician says, it's an uncaused, unmathematical cause, which what we call God, just called God. And then we go from there to see the attributes of this entity, this thing that actually made um, everything possible. So, and then from there, with everything we said so far, we only now detected the attribute, which we call it the self attribute when we study Al Aqidah in Islam, the theology in Islam, we call it the attribute of existence, is to exist. And then because it is not contingent and it doesn't actually take anything from anybody, otherwise the linear infinite regression will come back again. We know it has to be self-sufficient. So, hey, Al-Qayyum or As-Samad, okay? Self-sufficient. Okay, if it's self-sufficient, why is it self-sufficient? Well, because it's not like those contingent things. We have the universe is contingent, but then this first cause cannot be contingent. Oh, so now we know it is different than the universe. It's not alike the universe. So Allah is nothing alike. Okay. What else? Well, it doesn't have a start because if it has a start, then something made it exist. It needs that thing to make it exist because there is no circular infinite regression and no linear infinite regression. Otherwise, nothing will exist. But everything exists right now around us. Hey, we exist. Hello. So the first cause has to have no beginning. Then you will say, well, if everything has a beginning, why the first cause wouldn't have a beginning? Well, because you can see everything exists around you. And for everything to exist, It cannot have linear regression, infinite regression, and no circular infinite regression. And the mind rules that the first cause has to exist without a beginning. It just exists. Otherwise, nothing will exist here, and infinite linear regression will go back again and kicks in. And if that kicks in, it means nothing should exist, but we can see things exist. Okay, well, then what about um so now we know this maker, the creator, exists. We know it is self-sufficient. We know it's nothing alike this because everything is contingent. He's not. It's impossible for him to be. So it's necessary for a creator to exist. It's necessary that this creator to be self-sufficient. It's necessary for this creator to be nothing alike. It's necessary for this creator to be what? To be um has no beginning. Because if it has a beginning, again, linear infinite regression and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's necessary to have no beginning. And because it has no beginning, it also has no end because for something to have an end, it means it changes, it depletes, and we said that it is self-sufficient. So otherwise it will not be self-sufficient. So again, this is the next one. It doesn't have an end, necessarily doesn't have an end because it's self-sufficient. What else? It has to be one. Why it has to be one? Well, because of it's necessary to be self-sufficient and truly to be self-sufficient, like an actual self-sufficient as a concept, it has to be absolute. Because if something is not absolute, it is partial. And partial is not self-sufficient. Imagine this. Let's imagine another Earth, and on this Earth, on this other Earth, so on this Earth, our Earth, we have fields of roses, okay? And so each field of roses is what? It's 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 there, you know. It's small, big, it doesn't matter. But when you look at them, they're separate, and so therefore we have multiple. Okay. Can I call one of those rose fields that they're the absolute? No, I cannot. Because to be absolute, it has to be one. It is the absolute, means it's the only one. It's the one that's dominating. It's the only um, field of roses. But on this other planet, the entire planet is made of one field of roses. So when I look there, I do not see division. I do not see parts. What I can say is this is an absolute field of roses. Again, another example. Can I say for a person, I am the absolute human? No. I could say I'm the most perfect human, maybe. But an absolute human? No, because there are other humans. But if everybody dies, literally, and then I'm the only one standing, the last human, I can say about myself, I am the absolute human. I am the only one. Okay? So absolute means oneness. So something cannot have two and be absolute because now they share. And sharing means it's not absolute. That's why, like in Christianity, when they say, well, there are multiple gods, multiple entities, multiple persons with the same essence. Well, yes, but this one is an absolute and this one is an absolute. This makes them not absolute, makes absoluteness divides to two. Okay? I think it's clear. Otherwise, just let me know to explain more. But absoluteness means the ultimate existence, ultimate ability, ultimate power. And because it's self sufficient, it has to be ultimate, it has to be absolute. Otherwise, it will not be self sufficient and it will actually need other things. And if need comes in, it means it's contingent. And again, we roll that out. So, absolute, this uncaused, unmathematical cause has to be absolute to be self sufficient and to not need. And absoluteness means oneness. And hey, this is literally what the Islam calls God. God exists, God is self sufficient, God is nothing alike, God is one, because it's absolute, because it's self sufficient, God has no beginning, God has no end. So it turns out that Islam is very rigorously coherent. So you want evidence? Here's the evidence. And then what's the next evidence? Well, we have more attributes, but what is the next evidence if a person comes in and say, well, hey, all of this is good, but this is kind of a mathematical framework, which it it actually necessary, but do we have an actual material evidence, things that we can touch and see? Well, yeah, the Quran. Look at the Quran. The Quran is the word of God. God promised it will never change, and it never changed. It was never altered and modified in the sense that it will be altered and then Muslims will accept it to be another copy of the Quran out there. And then you can look in the Quran and see everything the Quran brought has no contradiction at all if you truly study it, correctly study it. And then you can see that there are things mentioned in the Quran that is so wandering to the point that it's scientifically just recently discovered, but it is there in the Quran. You can see that it rhymes with the human's well being, physically, mentally, psychologically, and morally. You look at the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and so on and so forth. Yes, there are evidence about what's being discovered also by the mind. All put all together, and if you keep digging while using your mind and literally being honest and being objective and being truthful, you cannot um, decline Islam. So why choosing Islam? It's not because my parents born Muslim or because it's the most dominant or it's no, it's because coherently is the truth. And this is just a summer. Like we've been talking here for like what, 40 minutes? And this is nothing. I mean, we have an entire science in Islam called the science of ilm al-kalam, the science of the speech, or ilm al-tawheed, which takes you so in depth in this. It's like literally what I said here considered like what, 0.05. This is how deep the Muslim went through to prove everything. And it's all honest, it's all truthful, no twists, no leaning towards one side. It has to be honest and objective. Um, so I think we're good today. Do you have any questions? Okay. Um, we will meet inshallah in the next lesson. Um, People who wants to get the most benefit out of this, please. This lesson, the 30th lesson, is so important. Write it down, make charts, drawings, bullet points, talk with yourself, ask me questions. This is just a summary. This is really brief summary. We can talk about more things of how people talk about, other things like quantum physics and how it kind of disproves like causality. But then if you go back to the books and read and not just give your ear and say, yes, you can see that quantum physics literally has two theories. The current one that is being used says there is no, um, oh gosh, what is it called? I forgot what it's called. So it says, um, oh, it says that there is no deterministic, but causality is there. Even in the most premier books in quantum physics, literally what it says, it denies determinism, but it approves causality because the entire system of quantum physics works on causality. But there are some scientists, they call themselves scientists, have some kind of agenda and they want to induce that no, quantum physics says there is no causality. Well, no, it says there is no determinism. But the entire quantum physics system works on causality. And even there is another um, framework for quantum physics. It's talking about the the bomb the Bohmian or the Bohemian um, framework. It's BOHM, and it talks even about determinism. Okay, but in both of them, causality is there, and it's an essential part of the system. So why I'm mentioning this, just to keep you in check that hey, do not believe everything. Try to go in, and if you hear something, verify it, because in the end, this universe works on causality. Causality only breaks when we start talking about the creator. It's before what they call the Big Bang. So always be vigilant, always keep your mind present and be rigorous and give yourself time and do not be shaken immediately because people on purpose trying to roll out for some kind of agenda the existence and the necessary um, the necessity of existence of God, and they're being dishonest. They're being not objective at all, not scientifical at all. So be vigilant, be truthful, because truth, as Master Jesus said, will set you free, which is literally, but when you use it, not when you just say it and then ignore the truth. So see you um, in the next lessons, inshallah, if Allah allows us. I wish you to be well. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.